Hi Chris, how are you?
Good evening, Rod. I'm well. Here we are on the 24th of January, and it's episode 157, and it's just about to get dark. It's been a little windy, I would say. I don't know what the world is like with you.
A little windy, I think, is a good way of describing it. If I was in Scotland, it would be a lot windy. If it was in Northern Ireland, it'd be an awful lot windy. So yeah, they're getting it smashed up there.
Yeah, I feel for those guys because I had a thing from my insurance company. I think there's the car or the home insurance, and they emailed me to go, don't be scared to make a claim if you're adversely affected by the weather. And I was like, I've never seen an email like that before, which was a bit odd, I thought.
That is a bit odd. I know that 4.2 million people in Scotland got the notification of red weather warning, danger to life, that we got in Wales as well, so it's a big deal.
Well, then I will be very grateful that I haven't got a red warning, and I will just put up with the minor inconvenience of a light gust, so I'm very lucky.
Well, my father's in hospital at the moment, and he said the nurses were saying even the Tesco's and things around them are all shut in Glasgow city centre, so that's really quite something up there.
Yeah, it's not like a Tesco's to shut, is it?
If there's a chance of making money, they'll be making money.
100%. Welcome to Capitalism podcast.
I think we're the opposite of that. I think we
concur.
We're not totally against capitalism, we understand, but at the same time, it has some small negative features.
Agreed. Should we get straight into follow-up then?
Let us do some follow-up, and if anybody can hear my dog on the recording, I apologise in advance.
Yeah, even it's come through on Google Meet that we are piloting for the second time this week, so which normally some of them suppress it. They're quite clever, aren't they? But maybe Google don't do. Maybe Google like to have a bit of personal animal noises coming through, which I'm all right with.
I'm all right with. I'd rather our listeners didn't have to hear too much of it, but such is a dog.
Yeah, it's fine. Life goes on. So should we get straight into the first story then? We've got Apple removes 2024 timeframe from their next-gen CarPlay page. Apologies. This can't be a surprise seeing as we're in 25 and it's not launched.
Yeah, it's not gone well, this, has it? I mean, everybody was sort of counting down the days as December was ticking along to say, well, where is it? Where is it? And just to revisit this story, this was an agreement they had, I think it was with Aston Martin and Porsche to begin with.
Well, originally they put up like everybody's logos, didn't they, in WWDC 2.5 years ago. And then it whittled down to Aston Martin and Porsche.
Yeah, that's right. And what it's meant to bring over original CarPlay pretty much just mirrors your iPhone's screen in a limited way, with limited number of apps that are blessed to run on CarPlay in whatever displays you've got. There's slightly improved implementations of it, so I think your car and some Peugeots and things like that will show the map on your digital dials where your speedos are, for example, or give you directions sort of mirrored to there, but not much more than that.
Big asterisk, only if you use Apple Maps. Apparently there's an API, but Waze and Google Maps don't do it, and I wish Waze would because I want to use Waze more, but I love having it in the centre. I find it's a lot easier. I have my entertainment on the big screen, and I like having my map by the dial, so I use Apple Maps a lot. But obviously Waze I think is better just for obstructions and things that might be coming up, like a car on the hard shoulder and potholes and things.
Definitely. And one thing I will shout out to the implementation on my car is that on the standard display, the Tesla didn't have this, and it used Google Maps as default as well, is there is a button like Waze where you can tap it as the driver, and it will just say obstruction, hard shoulder, whatever it is, accident, police, and it's just built into the system right there and then. So it's Google Maps. They've taken that from Waze, but I think that's so useful for you as a driver coming along behind to know that these things are happening.
All maps should do this. Like, it's a no-brainer. Where's a big pothole that could damage my car? Where's a car parked up on the hard shoulder? Where's there an accident? Brilliant. Right, I just don't understand. And the Apple one's there, but it's a bit hidden. It's not great.
It's not great. You've got to pop up a thing. Getting back to the point of this story, though, is that CarPlay 2 was meant to give us a lot more functionality on those manufacturers that were going to support it. So, for example, you could have a live speedo mirrored onto CarPlay, a rev counter, and the updating and the APIs and everything were going to be far more real-time than you would get with the original CarPlay, with deeper integration into the car.
Yeah, and I don't think we ever really understood how this was going to work. Like, was Apple having some stuff inside the car, or was it all off your phone? And they never really gave much away, but it did look cool 2.5 years ago. And I was looking forward to some of this because I thought, BMW will do this. But obviously BMW now have announced their own one, and they're doing less CarPlay support than they do now. So it feels like Apple have lost the window of opportunity. But I'm amazed in the midterm, in these 2.5 years, that they haven't given, I think we talked about it last week, our CarPlay a refresh, just the mirrored one, because it just looks a bit dated now. So
yeah, they're losing the little lead they had here. I think lots of people bought cars because of CarPlay, as Android Automotive progresses with more and more manufacturers, and we did talk about this last week, making use of it, then it's only going to be, I mean, it's interesting, it's two luxury brands are the ones that have sort of hung on to this because they can kind of see people who have iPhones are more likely to want this. But I do feel there's a big delay in the implementation of this.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? And it's odd for Apple to announce something and not have something lined up that's launching next week kind of thing. It's bizarre.
Apple Intelligence.
Yeah. But annoyingly, they launched it, and they probably shouldn't have launched it.
There is that. We'll talk about that a little bit maybe later on. Next story that's in follow-up is the UK Competition Authority is formally investigating the iPhone that has an App Store monopoly. We thought this was coming. There was indications, and we talked about it a couple of times in the podcast, but now they've formally launched that investigation. So it will assess Apple's market power and potential exploitative conduct. This includes options for app distribution to customers and the terms app developers must agree to be listed in the App Store in the first place. Basically, it sounds like the Digital Markets Act that the EU have, and frankly, good.
If we end up with the EU App Store off the back of this, happy days. The head of the CMA, though, did get sacked last week because Labour are worried we're not going to have enough competition going on and they're stopping too many things. So it'd be interesting to see how this all pans out.
I mean, this kind of stuff is interesting in light of we're going to end up talking about some of them, some of the executive orders that Trump is signing in America, where he's indicated that he's going to levy lots of taxes on any manufacturers or trading into the United States. So he wants everything to be built first in the United States. And we touched on this before. We thought it could lead to a 60% increase in laptops for American citizens, for example. And I think the UK are very conscious that they haven't got that many trading partners, really. So please treat us differently to everybody else. And if they push too hard on Apple and Google and Microsoft and, the big tech behemoths, maybe they'll lose out in this. Yeah,
I wouldn't doubt that for a second. It's an odd one, isn't it?
It really is. But anyway, it's a thing. As always on the podcast, we'll keep our eye on this and we'll report back on what's happening with it. But I think in the first instance, it's going to go quite like the EU.
Well, like I say, if the outcome is we get the EU market app store, I was going to say marketplace, and all of the stuff that goes with it, I'd be pretty happy with that.
Yeah. Sticking with the new government in the United States, we talked about the change in DEI, diversity and inclusion laws in America. And this was a little thing that came out earlier in the week and I don't know what the acronym stands for. It's CHOCO or something is the name of the organization. CHCOC. To all governmental agencies. I think the specific one was for NASA, is where this leak came from. But basically, shut down all your diversity programs, effective immediately.
I don't know. Sorry, Rod. I genuinely don't know what to say. I was telling somebody at work about this just today, and they're like, "Sorry, what?" And I was like, "Yep, shut it all down. No diversity. We don't need to bother." Mind blown.
It's so alien from what we're used to. Is we've become a more we've become a more inclusive, accepting, less racist, less sexist, less gender bashing or any of the choices around that society. And we haven't, or at least certain parts of the world haven't, and in fact they're actively getting pushed back on. And the second part of this is a link to a post on Mastodon, which is allegedly from NASA, and this is NASA saying, we're taking steps to close all agency DEIA offices and end all related contracts. So, and this is a direct result of that paper that we were showing and talking about last time. What this leads to is white men getting jobs, and that's not a good thing.
No, it's not good, is it? I don't even know what to say. I'm amazed out of all the things you've got to deal with on day one of your job, this is top of the pile, or somewhere near the top of the pile. It just seems crazy to me.
Yeah, and the first things of many. And let's face it, he hasn't even been in office a week yet.
Yeah, not even a week, not even like a whole working week yet. 4 and a bit days.
4 and a bit days. We've got a long way to go. There's 4 years of this, so buckle up, folks.
Yeah, agreed.
Something that is slightly better news, or certainly more interesting news as far as I'm concerned, is a story that came up, and I saw it on 9to5Mac, but it was all over the internet this week, about the potential that Zigbee and Philips Hue bulbs and other things like that could actually be used as motion sensors with existing equipment. This doesn't need an upgrade or anything. They're able to, I don't even know, a new approach to motion sensing could render additional hardware unnecessary. So potentially I could just get a software update to my Philips light bulbs. They can sense when you walk into a room, who knows how, and switch on when you go there. I think that if this can happen, this is really cool.
I think this is cool, and I do love it when you buy a bit of hardware a couple of years ago and then you get some firmware upgrades and it can do more now than what it could when you bought it. I think that's always good when your firmware upgrades allow this to happen. I think this is cool.
Yep, I'm a big fan of my Philips light bulbs. They fail a bit more regularly than I'd like them to, but they're generally pretty reliable things. They've worked with everything: Google Home, Amazon stuff, Apple stuff, Home Assistant, absolutely everything. They're good, solid pieces of kit.
This will surprise you, but I've never owned a Philips Hue light bulb, and I don't really know why. It just kind of passed me by. I've got a few plugs for my lamps, but I've never bothered with the light bulbs. I don't know why.
They're good. Like I say, I mean, they're really reasonably strong LED bulbs. They're a bit pricier than your average bulb. I think a bulb's about, I don't know, you said picking a number, £3 or £4 for a bulb.
How bad are we? We don't even know how much a light bulb costs.
Yeah,
how
we're
much
quite
is a pint of
disconnected.
milk, Rod?
We're quite, it's £1.50 for £4. I know that very well because I buy the milk for work.
I have no idea. I'm just I buy milk all the time, but I'm usually buying it with other stuff, so I just don't know.
Isn't this a question in Empire magazine or one of the music magazines, I think, to see how disconnected celebrities are? They ask them how much is a pint of milk.
I saw in a Michael McIntyre Saturday night show the other day, and they were asking somebody how much a pint of milk is, and they had no idea. So Michael McIntyre's a comedian here in the UK and does like a primetime TV show some weekends.
I know a Hue bulb is £15 though, so all right. I don't know a standard bulb, but a Hue bulb is more expensive. But for that, you get the ability to dim it, control it with your phone, set up automations. In some of them, you can change the color as well. I'm less keen on the color changing ones because they're not as bright. And as I get older and increasingly decrepit, I want a nice bright light bulb when I'm looking at something. Also, it's quite handy for the podcast if I'm trying to shine a spotlight on my face. But the way this works is it has a new approach to motion sensing that renders the additional hardware unnecessary. They're looking at interference and radio signals by somebody walking into a room. Really cool.
That is cool. Really cool tech.
Yep.
And that probably makes them more family friendly, because if you haven't got to get your phone out and turn things on, if it just kind of happens, that means it's going to work well for the family in your house that don't want to use their phones to turn on things.
Absolutely. So you bought a 3D printer not that long ago.
Yeah, so we got one for my son. He's 13, loves making stuff. The 3D printer's had a lot of use, and he's been printing stuff for me and for his friends at school. Just my screen bar that I used to light at my desk that you can see in front of me, that has a 3D printed bracket to raise it up over the camera on your studio display. So love the 3D printer, but you're going to tell me some bad news now.
Well, it's bad-ish news. If you're heavily invested in a more open ecosystem for these things and not having them locked down highly secured devices to one thing, this is a bad thing. So Bambu Labs has pushed a control system for 3D printers. I believe there were a lot of additional manufacturers, home labbers, creators that had their own control panels, networks, ways of working set up to work with Bambu printers, and the point of this is to stop all that.
Yeah, so I saw this and I thought it's a shame. So I don't think this will particularly impact me or my son, because we're probably not that way inclined. We don't know enough about it yet. But what happens in a year's time, he starts getting a bit more adventurous with it. And it is a bit frustrating. The printer, and we watched a video on this, the printer is amazing. Even the reviewer said the printer is fantastic. But it is a shame that they're doing this. Why do you need to do that? I'm still going to buy my filament from you. I can still use your printer. I'm still going to need spares. One of the things I was super impressed with the printer is you could customize it. You can print off, waste buckets for it, stands for it, cable management for it, and even you can see there where you hold the extra filament spindles on the top. My son's got the model down from this, but you could print off a different stand for it, so it takes up less desk space and stuff. There's some really cool stuff out there about customizing it, and surely the whole benefit of the 3D printing scene is, you can do your own thing with it. And it feels like Bambu have slightly gone away from that community feel.
Yeah, I mean, I do find the 3D printers fascinating. That one of the first things you do with lots of 3D printers is print extra bits for the 3D printer, and certainly know the one that they sent to the International Space Station. That's what they did.
I think that's quite cool. You can customize. You can do it in your own colors. You can have, like I say, a different spool bin for the the bits of rubbish that come off your prints. You can have some drawers underneath it. Do the cable management a different way. Have some color on it, or not have color if that's what you want. I just think it's quite nice that it's designed to be customized.
Yeah, and with a lot of these things, it's just about control for the company, isn't it? And I think the worry is that it becomes a cloud-based thing first rather than a local thing first. Yeah. And I think all of these things should be local in the first instance. Even Word and Open Office and things like that, you can download a version so it's not cloud-based. Fair enough, we used a couple of cloud-based things now for the show notes for this, but that's deliberate so we can collaborate on them as we go forward. For something like this, I think it should be local first, then cloud. And I understand the company has investment in this, but at the same time, it's a great way to annoy your community, and that's exactly what's happened.
Yeah, and I think it's tricky, isn't it, when you're building a printer for very different abilities. So for my son, the fact it was all app-based was a great way to get him into the world, get him up and running, update the firmware, set up the printer, change a few settings. Great start. But when he wants to go a bit further and get out of the novice into the, amateur leagues and wants to do a bit more with it, it feels like they're going to be closing the doors to that.
Yeah, this is it. And I hesitate to say it again, but is this the beginning of enshittification of Bambu?
Sadly, I think you might be right. And I'm really disappointed because I very nearly bought my own 3D printer just for a bit of fun because I just think they are cool. And the product, the build quality is fantastic. And we've just got an open bed one, the one in the screen grab, like a mini box. But even just the open bed one we've got, which is a much cheaper price point, it's fantastic. The kit, the quality, I'm super impressed with it. And I'm disappointed if they're going to go this way.
Yeah, and after you were talking about it, I was thinking myself, I think, the basic model was one I thought that's affordable, it's interesting, you can do lots of things with it. I can think of a few things I'd want to print, but I'm kind of off the company now, and I'm not even going to go to their website, because I don't want to give them the clicks.
Okay, I haven't gone off the company yet, because it hasn't ruined my world, but maybe I'll update in a year's time once we've had the print of a year and see where we're at with it, but I am disappointed with it, but for a lot of people, if they are going to keep it to the more amateur market, this will be a non-event.
Yeah. One thing that's not a non-event, or was a semi-non-event, was the TikTok ban. So we talked about this on the podcast last week. TikTok had been shut down across America. Trump came in, it reappeared. So that was nice. The ban has been suspended for 75 days, but it will only work if you still had the app on your phone. Apple and Google and others are not allowing you to download the app again because it's still in breach of the law. So even though the company have allowed access to it, you wouldn't be able to download the app from Apple and get on and use it. So it's a really murky legal situation where the president said something could happen, but it's still illegal unless Congress passes an act. So,
yeah, I was just trying to digress what you were saying. I don't understand how this is going to work. Is it allowed or not allowed? I don't know. I just find that really bizarre.
I mean, Trump runs the government, and from the sound of things, he can push anything he wants through the legislature in America. So he can make it legal. But currently, until that happens, technically it's illegal. So as the fines for this are large, and let's face it, Google and Apple have had a few fines recently, I can understand why they might be a little cautious about this.
Yeah, they might be a little hesitant before they rush to get another fine. I understand it, but it's very murky, isn't it?
It's very murky. Something else that's murky is Elon Musk. Elon Murk might be a better way of calling him. That's not a very good joke. It's a very dad joke, and I apologize straight away. So at Trump's inauguration, Musk was seen basically doing fascist salutes. And I don't know if you saw the video of that, but call it what you want to call it. It looked like two fascist salutes to me.
Again, this was much debate in our office this morning. I concur. I think he knew what he was doing. It didn't sit right with me.
Yeah, and this is a pattern now of him supporting right-wing people like Tommy Robinson in the UK, thinking that the right-wing party in America, the ABN, ABR, whatever they're called in Germany, are doing the right thing, and other, not stopping right-wing things, and in fact actively supporting it as part of that. Anyway, Trump's companies have come under a bit of focus for this as well, specifically Tesla, and X is his other big one, as well as Starlink. And this was quite interesting in Politico that Le Monde, which is a large newspaper in France, has actively left X. It's taken that for them to leave X, but at last, well done. With I do think there'll be a shift in Europe for how these things are perceived, and big journalistic things like newspapers leaving is a big deal.
Yeah, like you say, is it really just taking that to do it? Why are they still there? But it does feel like there's going to be more of it as the year unfolds. If this is what's happened in 4 days, what's the next 4 days going to look like, or the next 4 months, or the next 4 years? Oh, wow.
Yeah, like we said a minute ago, I think buckle up, folks, is probably the fairest thing to say.
Yeah. Oh, it's just, yeah. We probably need to work out how much we want to discuss it on this podcast, because I don't think we want to be on a downer for the next 4 years. So we probably need to work out the right balance.
All right, well, we've got to stick with the downer. Should we do the news and stick with the downer?
Let's get through the downers and then let's come out the other end.
Let's see what we can do about that. So this was a story reported in The Guardian earlier this week that Microsoft deepened its ties with the Israeli military to provide tech support during the Gaza war. Now, I don't know what to make of this. Whichever side of the political spectrum, the religious spectrum, wherever you are on this, I don't think it's the place for a tech company to be providing support in some of the problematic actions of the Israeli military. I'm tying myself in knots here trying to say the right thing.
I'm amazed that Microsoft don't have a policy that's basically, we don't, like Google, don't be evil, like we don't get involved in wars. You may have our stuff installed in your military forces and that's as far as we go. But I guess it's installed, there's contracts, and Microsoft have profited from it, which doesn't feel right, does it?
It really doesn't feel right. To help active military operations against civilians. And I'm not saying that the other side were doing anything better, but they weren't getting support from Microsoft to do that. Apple once upon a time had an export restriction placed on them. I think it was the Powerbank G3 or G4 was classed as a weapon because of its potential to decrypt things. Do you remember those adverts? It was in the same category as a tank. You couldn't ship it to Iran based on what was in there. When you're talking next time, I'll go away and see if I can do some follow up on that. But I don't see it's the place of a large tech company to do something like this.
I think you and I are wonderfully aligned on this one. Imagine that. Some things we do agree on. Who knew? Some
things we do agree on, and we've had our problems, Microsoft, but this is a whole nother level.
Yeah, and I think that is it. Like, this is a whole other level. I quite like a lot of what Microsoft have done recently. I do not like this.
I do not like this. I mean, I didn't like Teams. This is just going past Teams to a ridiculous amount.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure they're in the same ballpark. Yeah, I don't know what to say, but it seems odd that a company should profit from a war, but I understand that a lot of military forces probably are using Microsoft products to some degree, or Google, or insert another big company here.
I think the American military uses PowerPoint for their briefings for their battle plans.
Yep, I could quite believe it.
So, and that's fine. You've bought a piece of software. What you choose to do with it as an end user is up to you. There's a real difference between actively engaging with this kind of stuff, though.
Yeah, I do agree with you there. And I'm amazed, like I say, that they don't have some form of policy that stops them from being able to do this. I don't know. At some point, did somebody not go, maybe we want to do something a bit different?
Yeah. Corporate and social responsibility, folks.
Quite.
Do you want to tell us about another Microsoft story?
So I just thought I'd put it in here, a little tongue-in-cheek, and I think this one's a free one to read on the FT, so I was trying to go for a different website. But Microsoft are paying loads of money to replant some of the Amazon and Atlantic forests in Brazil, which is obviously a good thing, but it just seemed very counterintuitive to the previous one, that in one hand we're planting forests and in the other one we're financing those forests from a war that happened and we've made loads of money from it. It just seems bizarre to me, and obviously they're trying to do this to offset all their data center footprint, or at least a good proportion of it. So they're planting all these trees to get in exchange for hundreds of millions of dollars worth of carbon credits. It's good Microsoft are doing it. They're doing something great, but it just didn't sit right with me because it literally came out the day after the Gaza story broke.
Yeah, and it very much strikes me as greenwashing. And again, we're going to mention good old Donald's name. The incoming administration has downgraded curbing climate change as a priority. So Microsoft might not even feel the need to do this for the future.
Yeah, there is that. Trump's going to ban all sustainability, put them in the same pot as the DEI stuff.
It's just staggering, but it is an interesting story. I think it's, let's face it, they're never going to be able to offset the damage by these data centers. And there was another story this week about $500 billion for creation of, I think it's called Stargate, which worries me for lots of reasons, between OpenAI and Oracle and others, to create data centers on that sort of scale, which is a puff piece. It's never going to happen. Nobody's going to spend that much money on a data center. But stuff like this, we've fronted Apple for greenwashing, and I think this is Microsoft's go at the same thing.
Yep.
And just to finish this story off, I have found, and it's only 30 seconds long, the Apple Power Mac G4 that was actually classed as a in the same category as tanks. So you're free to go and find that on YouTube. Hopefully Chris will put the link in the show notes as well. But this was when Apple could do different advertising back in the day. This was the kind of thing you'd get from Apple. I can't believe you don't remember this.
Possibly slightly before my Apple time, but what a beautiful desktop that was. I used to have one of these. I bought it second hand. I loved it. This is a great designer. Doesn't that look good?
Oh, it's terrific.
What a beaut. And the advert still looks good today.
It does. I don't think the industrial press on all the artistic stuff will age quite so well.
What, on the iPad Pro? I think that's dead. That advert died within a day of it coming out.
Somebody's got a copy of it somewhere. I bet it's on YouTube if I go and look for it.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Shall we move on to the next story, which is researchers have found a new attack that could take down the European power grid. So this isn't a good one. This is all on clean energy, wind turbines, solar panels, and all the rest of it. Renewable energy facilities throughout Central Europe use unencrypted radio signals to receive commands to feed or to ditch power. This is a schoolboy error of the highest proportion, surely.
Yeah, because encryption, a long time ago, used to be a cost to doing that. To transmit, compute, but that's not a problem anymore. So I'm amazed that this is even a thing. Like, how is it not encrypted?
Yeah, this is madness. And the problem is we're seeing this in a few places. Hyundai cars, I know, for example, were widely hacked for having poor encryption on their things. So you could see where the car was, look at its cameras, lock it and unlock it, do that kind of stuff. That's a couple of cars. This is your entire energy grid. When you've got a slightly violent neighbour a couple of countries over who's actively engaged in a war and oil is very much involved with it and used to supply oil to most of the continent, surely you'd want to secure your energy.
Agreed. I can't believe it. By the way, Subaru, I think, have got the same car problem that you've just mentioned about Hyundai. So yeah, it's not good, is it? And it's more now than ever. You've got to be very careful with your neighbours.
And I mean, as you dig into this story, it becomes even more incredible. It's the same receivers that are installed in street lamps for smaller solar power. You could shut down cities with this.
Can I shut down speed cameras?
Why? Have you got something on that note?
I know. It's just I haven't been caught speeding. By the way, I don't condone speeding, but there's just a lot of speed cameras in our country at the moment. They seem to be because they're now a lot more commoditized, I guess, in that you can basically put like what looks like a little video, record a box on top of a pole with a solar panel and have a SIM card in it. There's just speed cameras everywhere. It's ridiculous.
Revenue generation.
Agreed.
Another thing that's revenue generation is watch bands for Apple. However, it may be that they contain forever chemicals, which is a particular kind of plastic that never goes away. They can end up being broken down and being in our bodies. I think a decent percentage of fish pulled out of the sea tend to have PFAS in them. We have PFAS in our cardiovascular systems and reproductive systems. There's been a couple of papers on that recently. They're not great things to have in the environment. And if our elastomer or whatever they are, watch bands from Apple also contain them, that's another massive own goal.
Agreed. Forever and chemicals are two words you never want to see together because chemicals generally doesn't sound good. And I get there probably are some good chemicals in the world that do things we need, but forever and chemicals sounds very bad. Yeah,
I mean, let's face it, we're not getting very far without chemistry, but it's the man-made ones that sort of, there is no end to them, there is no biodegrading of them, or if there is biodegrading, it's into something smaller and even more harmful. So this is a lawsuit, it's not a proven thing yet. It may turn out well for Apple, but it's not a great start to 25.
It doesn't sound good for their sustainability 2030 target that they currently have, because obviously they're pushing for that. And the watch, I think, was the first device to be sustainable. This certainly flies in the face of that.
Yeah, absolutely does. Not good. Sticking with the register and back to Trump again, he has axed a whole element of the Homeland Security Department that was dealing with cybersecurity. So this is the committee that found out the hack into Microsoft and the Exchange servers, and he's just decided that this is a thing that's not needed anymore, so he's just got rid of them.
It's fine, just let him in.
On one level, they're already in. They've already got all your secrets, Donald, so I guess, why not?
Yeah, I guess so, but maybe you don't want other states to get all your secrets? I don't know, but I'm not sure he should be the guy making decisions on cybersecurity, though.
Considering the hacks that have happened and the fact he's about to start a trade war with China on EV taxation and all the other taxes that we've talked about before, surely you'd want to have secure networks so you can, any plans you're discussing or other secret trade secrets that you've got would be secure. No, just get rid of all the people who were actually effective in highlighting, if not stopping, these things.
Yeah. Oh, I do again, and this is the first thing you do. Very bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, as President Trump took office this week, this homeland has never been less secure, retired US Navy Rear Admiral Mark Montgomery testified. While America does remain at risk from physical attack by terrorists and even missile attacks from Russia and China, the most persistent vulnerability is a threat of cyber attack. And make no mistake, China is America's most capable and opportunistic cyber adversary. That's pretty clear.
Yeah, that's not good, is it? Like, that's quite a statement.
It really is. It really is. And I presume he's got his own, I mean, I don't know, if he's head of a committee, maybe he got a nice amount of money from it. But we have talked before in this country how GCHQ isn't paying, cybersecurity people enough money to go and work there. They're getting standard government wage. So we know we've got these issues, but this is a whole nother level on top of that.
Yeah, but hopefully we're not doing any sanctions with the country that we're freely allowing in our cyber world. So, bizarre.
It's not great. Moving on, a story in Ars Technica. The new Galaxy S25s were announced this week. The overwhelming sort of response to the announcement was a bit meh. Slightly better phones, very evolutionary, not a lot of change. The software's got better, and isn't that a familiar story?
Yeah, and whilst I've never owned one, I do see them in my office quite frequently, and Samsung makes some very nice devices. You can't deny them that. Some of them do look a little bit on the large size for me, but they are great. The screens are great, so I'm not surprised. They've got a year where maybe the hardware hasn't iterated as much, but it's great the software's getting better. I mean, and it does look impressive.
I think they're good phones. They've gone past the point of copying Apple, where they're in a mature ecosystem of their own at this point. Android is a very mature mobile platform. It stands up to iOS, as my month showed me last year. I think these are good-looking devices. But they're at the same point as Apple. You and I both elected we didn't need to buy new iPhones this year because there wasn't enough of a revolution over last year's. And if I had a Galaxy S24 Ultra, I'd probably feel exactly the same.
Yeah, and we shouldn't be buying a new tech every year and putting one in the drawer. There shouldn't be that need unless it really is moving on. But no, these look great, and maybe I would try one of these at some point. But I've got to work out how I unfold myself from the Apple ecosystem to do that.
Or maybe it's my challenge to you this year is you need to do a month with Android as well.
Maybe.
We all need to get out of our comfort zone from time to time.
True.
Yeah, fusion's an interesting thing. China has made a bit of an advance on creating something called a tokamak. A tokamak is a cylinder into which you can superheat plasma. This is something that you need to keep it maintained within a steady state to make nuclear fusion. That's sort of the confinement of how you make fusion happen. Keeping it going for more than a few seconds has been a significant problem and has stopped us making any progress towards nuclear fusion. All the cold fusion stuff has never panned out. However, China now has a tokamak that they say have been able to run for almost 15 minutes. And if you can do that, we're quite close to being able to do the next stages, as I understand it, for nuclear fusion. So I think this is really cool, the fact that they've got something up and running that's tangible steps on the way to nuclear fusion, because the sun runs pretty well. If we can have access to that kind of thing without having to split atoms and all the explosive problems that come with them, that would be a good thing.
Yeah, completely agreed. Fair play to them. Are they going to share the tech with the rest of the world, though? That's the question.
That is the question. I mean, America's not going to be able to hack them because they've already been hacked, but, it's a thought.
Yeah, it's a thought. I'd imagine they've kept their firewall team in place and their cybersecurity experts.
Absolutely. Are you excited, Chris, to have your passport and your driving license on your iPhone?
Yep.
Simple as that. Okay.
100%. Okay, so when I go out the house, I generally only take my phone with me because I can unlock my front door, I can unlock my car, I can drive my car, I can pay for everything I want to pay for, I can get all my points on whatever place I'm going to get points. Lots of supermarkets in the UK do points when you use your points card. I'd like my driving license on there. I'd like my passport on there. It's less stuff for me to take when I'm abroad. I could do it with my children when we go on holiday. I want them to get used to travelling and, and they get their boarding passes. Why not have their passports too? I think this is good. I think it makes sense. I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah, I am too. We trust our phones to pay for things. We trust our phones to, carry all manner of things. Um, this is a sensible evolution. We've already seen in America them doing driver licenses. Obviously, work quite well there, unless they've been hacked. But yeah, I think I'm quite comfortable with this. It's one less thing to worry about, one less thing to carry. Potentially, we all get to the point of trust. I wouldn't want to be crossing into a border and have new battery.
Yeah, that is a thing, because I often see it when I travel with friends and family. Have you put your phone in power save mode? It's going to be a long day of travel. We don't know when we're going to charge. You need your phone for your boarding pass and all of that. And I think people are getting better at it. I think what is disappointing for all of us, though, is phone batteries haven't obviously evolved at the pace we would like. But people need to, own that, because obviously that could be a major hold-up. You're plugging your phone in and charging it up so you can show your border pass or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I think it's got to happen. I mean, I think the Tube Pass, the Oyster card sort of equivalent NFC thing, continues to work even when the phone's flat, doesn't it? I think.
Yeah, so there's express travel mode on your phone, and you can use this to get into my house. So you can unlock my house even if your battery's flat. It works. Same on the London Underground, as you say. You don't even need an Oyster card anymore. You just nominate your bank card and just pay, and it just lets you on. It's fantastic tech. So for me, I think this is awesome.
I agree, and it is worth talking about this, which is the OnePlus 13. There is a link here, honestly. The OnePlus 13, which is OnePlus's latest phone that comes from Oppo, has a new technology in the battery called silicon carbide. So it's still lithium-ion batteries, but there's some sort of enhancement for silicon carbide. This has gone from a one-day phone to Marcus Brownlee couldn't get it to die after 2 days with a sort of enhancement of it. And he tried really hard to get it to die. What an impressive advancement in technology.
100%, because we've been at one-day phones probably since iPhones came out, really. Ever since we've gone full smartphone, they've generally been 1 day, and that's been acceptable. Whereas it would be nice to see that move forward. It's the same on the iPad. 10 hours is what we've had since the iPad was born. It'd be nice to get some of these efficiencies and technology evolutions. Now, I'm not saying the battery tech hasn't moved on. It clearly has. We've got much more powerful devices. But we're not really having anything game-changing in the longevity of how our devices last. I would love if my iPhone is, 18 months old, would last a day. It doesn't really. It needs a little top-up from time to time.
Yeah, it's a definite limitation of them. And the S25s that we talked about a minute ago don't have this silicon carbide technology in them. So there's a chance here that manufacturers like OnePlus could steal a march. And if you take that and you combine it with more and more of our digital lives, and let's face it, there's a lot of them on there already. Your passport's on there now too, and you are crossing a border, not having to worry about your battery expiring, that's a big deal.
Yeah, people worry about batteries all the time, don't they? And it's a big driver for upgrades as well, as people go, I just need a better battery. And because it's not easy to replace, people often upgrade their phone, which is a bit wasteful.
Very much. Do you want to tell us about some new Sony headphones?
I put a question mark here. So I'm wearing the current Sony headphones, the what are they, XM5s?
XM4s you've got. No, XM5s you've got. Yeah,
you've got the 4s, I think.
I've got 2s.
Oh, you got 2s, right? Okay. I don't know what the difference is, but there might be 6s coming out, XM6s. I'm all right with this because I bought the 5s. I love them. They're very light. They're fantastic. But I was just curious to say, look, they've got some 6s coming out. They might have removable cups. They might have a different hinge mechanism. So it'll be interesting to see where Sony go with it. I think they make fantastic headphones. And I've just got used to, don't bother putting them in a case. They weren't terribly expensive. Chuck them in your bag, just use them. And that's where I'm at with them. And I think they're fantastic.
Yeah, the XM series has been an absolute triumph for Sony. All of them have been well rated from the very first model. I like these ones and I didn't move on because these still collapse. Yours I don't think do in the same way the Apple AirPods don't. However, if they're bringing new hinging and sort of collapsing things, maybe that will come back and you'll have all the benefits you've got in your headphones, plus whatever else Sony bring along, and potentially have that as well. And frankly, even if you don't, they're terrific headphones.
Yep, no, agreed. And I knew that some might be coming out when I bought these, but I bought these back in November. It's 3 months. They're not out yet. They're probably going to cost a bit more because they'll be the new hotness. So no, I'm happy with my purchase. And I did go back and wear my old AirPods Max the other day, and they just feel very tight and heavy. And I think I've got a big head, so that's partly my fault. But they are heavy headphones, and so these are lovely. They do get warm. I am going to consider getting something else. I think I could do with something that's not quite so big and heavy when I'm out for a walk. But
It's a compromise, isn't it? If you want good noise cancelling, then you've got to have that good seal to the outside world as well as the electronics for the microphones for the noise cancelling. So if they made them, I think they're open back. Open back are the hi-fi headphones that are the ones that, they cost an awful lot of money, but then you do get a little bit of cooling around you because of the sort of design of the headphones. So all things are a compromise. For me, this is the perfect compromise. They charge with USB-C. They've got very effective noise cancelling. They do get a bit tight on top of my head, but they collapse. And that's what I want from a headphone. The AirPods Max were never in my radar because they were just far too bulky. And they had a lot of limitations, actually. And, I know you stuck with them for a long time, but I think even you can say there's more to recommend the Sonys than there was the Apple ones. And frankly, and Apple did such a half-assed job of upgrading them where they actually took features away, really, rather than putting anything into them. It's an odd choice for anybody to select them.
Yeah, sadly, and I love the AirPods. I love all the ecosystem. But yeah, sadly, the Max is just, I don't think they're worth the money. It's a shame.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else on headphones?
Nope, I think that's it for now. I just wanted to mention they're coming, and I'm curious to see what we end up with. So we've got some good tech potentially coming this year. New headphones, new Nintendo Switch. So, it's a good start to the year.
It's a good start from the positive side of the podcast, that's for sure.
100%.
Should we do some media?
Let's do some media.
So one thing that's less good, perhaps, is once again Netflix are jacking their prices up. So the cheapest ad-free plan will increase from $15.49 to $17.99, which is 16%, which is quite a rise, really.
That is quite a rise, isn't it? And people generally have a lot of streaming subscriptions. So, I generally buy one and then cancel it and then go and get something else and move around a little bit. But a lot of people have Netflix all the time. It's kind of one of those things that's just a given, isn't it? It's a big increase.
Yeah, so I pay for Netflix all the time and have since the service was launched. I've never taken a break from it. My kids use it all the time, when it's not barred from them being away at university for too long. So this is it's becoming a consideration. I watch almost nothing on Netflix. I've watched a little bit of Squid Game 2 when it's come along. When they got rid of The Witcher, I kind of lost interest in everything else that was on there. I know you've watched a couple of films on there recently, but it's not my first port of call when I'm looking for new streaming stuff.
You've just reminded me of a film I watched.
Oh, there you go. There's something for the show notes. So yeah, I think this is becoming problematic. I currently subscribe to too many streaming services, and the one I'm looking at hardest at the moment is Netflix. I don't get the return on investment from it, and I wonder if the kids would get that upset if it actually went away.
Do you know what? I'm amazed. My kids are getting a bit older now. I'm amazed they haven't said, Dad, why haven't we got Netflix all the time? Because my mates are watching X on it or whatever it may be. But they've never once really asked it. I get it every now and again for them. I think there's something we got it for Christmas because we all wanted to watch a couple of bits, and I just binge a few things I want to watch. So we're not really missing it when it's cancelled now. And I'll get it again when Drive to Survive comes out, and I'll get it for a month, and we'll watch a few things, and then we go and get something else. I must say though that they had that Christmas song, which was a Christmas kids film, fantastic. And my son must have watched that 10 times, which is very happily paid. Made the price of Netflix entry worth paying for. So this has just convinced me I'm doing the right thing. I'll have it for 2 months of the year, maybe 3. And I'm all right with that, and I'll go and get something else. I do the same with Now TV for the Formula One. I cancel when we're in the off season like we are now, and I'll get it again. With Prime, I pay a year in advance. Disney Plus, I can take or leave Disney Plus, to be fair. I generally do it for the year because you get 2 months for free, but maybe I'd be better to cancel it and just get it, for 6 months of the year instead.
Yeah, it might not be a bad shout. Too many of these things, I think we need to go back to a simpler age when just everything was on one of them, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon.
True. So, whilst you mentioned Netflix, and I went, aha, I remember now, I've watched a film on Netflix this week. I watched The Bank of Dave 2, which I saw The Bank of Dave a while ago. It's about a person from Burnley who sets up a bank in the UK. It's the first person to set up a bank in the UK in like 100 years, and it's like a community bank because he wants to loan money to some of his good customers, but have a fair rate of loan rather than try and make lots of money out of it. He's trying to help people. And then they've done Bank of Dave 2, which recently came out, and it's called The Lone Ranger, and it's all about payday loans and all of that, and it's loosely based on a true story. I think there's quite a bit of fiction added, but you know what? It's a pretty good family film. to watch. I quite enjoyed it. My kids weren't that fussed because it's about banking and payday loans, which obviously is not something they probably really understand. But generally, quite a good film. And I'm going to forget the lead actor's name. I'm going to say Kinnear. What's his name? His name is
Rory Kinnear.
Kinnear, and he's really good in it. And actually, if you see him next to the real Dave that he's playing, I think he does a great job. So no, it was a good film. I enjoyed it. It's not rated yet on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a shame, but I would recommend. But I didn't know it'd come out. It didn't seem to have much fanfare here in the UK.
You clearly need to give it a rating, so it's got a few more things here on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, okay. Can I do it?
I don't know if you can do that. I see Rob Delaney's in it as well. He's popping up in lots of things at the moment. He's in Deadpool versus Wolverine. He was in Bad Monkey that I watched. I think he's a great actor, Rob Delaney.
It's a real-time follow-up. I'd probably give it about 4 stars. I enjoyed it. I'd be happy to watch it again.
Fair enough. I've also managed to watch a couple of things this week, one of which is an Apple TV Plus production that's just dropped. It's called Prime Target. It drops every Wednesday in the United Kingdom, at least. I presume that's the same all over the world. It stars somebody called Leo Woodall, and they really push on the advertising for Leo Woodall, even though I didn't know who he was. I was more interested to see that David Morrissey was in it. I have a lot of time for David Morrissey. I think he's a great actor. And I'll get her name wrong, Sits Babbitt Knudsen, who was the Prime Minister in Borgen, if you've ever watched Borgen back in the day, a Danish TV production that was just terrific. So, decent cast. Leo Woodall's slightly wooden, maybe. The premise is he's a maths genius. It's a bit Born Supremacy versus A Beautiful Mind or something like that.
I was just about to say, it sounds like we've got The Beautiful Mind on the go here.
Yeah, that's it. I think it's schlocky, but I kind of want to keep watching it for a little bit. So I've watched 2 episodes so far. I'll give the third one a chance. I'm not going to do what was the other Apple TV crime thing that I watched with a Peter Capaldi in it? It's leaving me. Criminal Suspect, something like that. I don't think it's as bad as that, but at the same time, it's certainly not the greatest piece of television I've ever watched. It's okay.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I'll have a look. I can't tell if you're selling it to me or not, but I think what you're saying is give it 20 minutes and you'll soon know. Yeah,
I think you will. It's a vaguely interesting premise, I think. It's about cybersecurity, so sort of links right into the theme of our episode, really.
Yeah, no, it does sound interesting. It's in the UK, so I might give that a go.
Give it a go. The other thing I managed to watch a few of was an Amazon Prime thing called Secret Level. And this is really weird. I hadn't heard about it. It's by the same creators of Love, Death and Robots, which is a Netflix thing that was really well done. They took some short stories from well-known science fiction authors and turned them into CGI fests, for want of a better word. They really went to town on it. Adult themes and everything. It was really quite well done. The same producers or same animators have done this thing called Secret Level, which is based on computer games. So they've taken some computer games, some of which you might have heard of. For example, Unreal Tournament.
I haven't heard of that. That was big when we were at university.
It was, or Pac-Man is another example of something that they've done something with, and turned it into like a 15-minute short, loosely related to the concepts of the game. So I watched these up to Armored Core Asset Management, and I got bored at that point. But the Unreal Tournament one was good because there were some of the sound effects, and I'm sure you might remember some of the sound effects and the announcer thing that would happen in Unreal Tournament you were playing, multi-kill and all that kind of stuff. And the Pac-Man one was interesting as well, in the sense of how do you turn Pac-Man into a 15-minute animated short?
Oh, okay.
So they were okay. Like I say, I got bored towards the end, and I don't really know some of these other games. I know Concord is the one from Sony that didn't last very long. It came out and they actually pulled it in about a day.
Yeah, that wasn't good, was it?
No. So I think if you've got Amazon Prime, it's worth watching. I'd say Pac-Man and Unreal Tournament are worth a watch. The rest of them, not so much.
Just one thing, actually, while you mentioned Amazon Prime, my world is coming back to me. Have you ever heard of Beast Games?
No, I don't think I have.
So this is Mr. Beast, obviously a very famous YouTuber who I've not really seen on YouTube, but my children have got into it, and they've been watching the Beast Games, and it drops once a week. And they're quite enthralled with it, and it's basically, I think you start off with about 100 people, and then they're trying to whittle it down to one person who will win £5 million or some such number. And they play a lot of quite psychological games and getting people to pick other people that are out. And, they had one last night where they pick 2 people, right, you stand on this train line, and then you're going to work out, are they going to get run over by the train. Obviously, it's not real. Or we're going to put your best mate on there because we've been watching you throughout this whole series of games, who you've been talking to the most, and this person you've talked to the most. So we're going to put them on the other track, and you've got to pick between your best mate or a couple of mates go in, or you could win a Lamborghini and these people go out. And basically, they're whittling down the numbers, so you end up with one winner. It's quite a psychological game in a way, and it's super interesting to see how it's played out. But my kids have very much enjoyed that, and I've never really seen Mr. Beast. I didn't know anything about him, but apparently this is what Mr. Beast does a lot of on YouTube. Like I say, it was just something that's passed me by, but I'd heard him mentioned in conversation. But it's actually quite a gripping thing to watch in a way, because some of the games are well done. Sometimes there's a bit much for me spent on backstory and all of that, but yeah, it's quite interesting, and every game's a little bit different, always got a twist in it, and obviously everybody feigns surprise when they announce the twist. It's like, hang on, you feign surprise every time he announces a twist. But yeah, interesting, very interesting.
Sounds a bit like The Traitors, which I know is a big deal here in the UK, but I don't watch that.
Apparently the final's on tonight. My son has a sleepover and people here to watch it, so I've not seen it either.
Wow. Should we do some games?
Let's do some games.
So first one, especially for you, Chris. This is something that's in pre-release at the moment. It's an announcement. It's called Tempest Rising. Apparently there's a demo available on Steam if you go and seek it out. And it's a spiritual successor to Command & Conquer, apparently.
Ooh.
Yeah, I thought that would get your attention. So it's a real-time strategy game set in a semi-real-world environment, but semi-real-world type things. And you can see from some of the units that are going around on the screen here, they look like the original sort of Command & Conquer things. So I thought this would appeal to you. So it's pre-release on Steam. I think it's £30, $34.99 at the moment, but there is a demo, like I say, download Tempest Rising demo. You could have a crack at this on one of your Windows machines if you wanted, and it might just be something you'd want to check out. Even the art looks a little bit like Command & Conquer to me.
It does look quite cool, and it looks like you've got two factions as well. I am looking for a game to get in, as you know. So yeah, no, this looks kind of cool. I might have to give this one a whirl. So I'll add that to my watch list, and I might check out. I certainly check out the demo. I like it when there's a demo, because try before you buy. Who doesn't like that?
There's no harm in checking out. Tell us about Civilization 7.
So I just put this on here. I didn't know where to put some follow-up or games, powerlifting games. We said last week, obviously, there's not always that many reasons to pre-order a game at the moment. But actually, with Civ 7 and Tempest Rising, if you pre-order some of the upper tiers, so you pay a little bit more money, you get early access for a week, like 5 days before the game comes out to the mainstream. And that may be interesting. I think forcing somebody between £59 and £89 to get the game for 5 days seems a little expensive for the uplift. If I'm being honest, just for 5 days, for me it should probably be a couple of weeks as a pre-order bonus, but I don't know. But there is a reason to pre-order, whereas I think last week we were saying in this day and age there's not much reason to pre-order things, because you can just go and get it. There's not like there's a limited supply. That was all I wanted to pick up on.
No, I think that's good. It's also hammered home to me that this is going to be available in about 2 weeks, and I'm now quite excited.
It's not long, is it?
It's not long. We've got one more, Settlements Rising.
Yeah, so I was browsing the Steam store. I've not bought this. I put a question mark after it, but I just put this in there because it's a game that costs. I missed the link. It costs £10.32 in the UK, but it just looked kind of cool, and I thought, you know what, I might give that a go for £10. Just looked a bit of fun. I quite like the art style. But I just thought, like I said, I put it in there with a question mark because I just thought it looked kind of cool, and I might give it a go.
Yeah, it does look a bit like sort of a Settlers or one of those games from back in the day, Age of Empires a little bit maybe.
Yeah, and like I say, it's at £10, it might just be something, a bit of interest. And there's a real-time strategy sale on at the moment, so I was going to have a look at that this weekend.
Fair enough. Should we do a main show?
Let's do it. It's all about you.
So this is very short. I don't have an awful lot to say about it. I can't remember if I said in the podcast, but I got a drone for Christmas.
I don't believe you have. I've seen some footage of you with a drone, and I asked you about it, and you said we'd talk about it in the show, and then here we are 3 or 4 weeks later.
Yeah, if I can be motivated sufficiently, I'll put the footage up on as part of the video when we're looking at some of the more boring pages here. It's just a very short thing to say. I in the same way you were 3D printer curious, I was drone curious. It's the kind of thing you see and think, that looks like a cool toy, really, but without having sort of a practical application for them. I'm not an estate agent. I don't need to video people's gardens. I'm not much of a creator beyond what we do here. So, you know, my need for a drone isn't high, but it's one of those things you think, oh, that's still really cool. So I got this thing for Christmas because obviously I'd been talking about it a little bit. Here was my drone. And there's a bunch of rules involved with flying drones, which wouldn't surprise anybody with half a brain, because what you don't want to do is take your drone and fly it over an airfield or over a bunch of children, or cause chaos, confusion, and crashes, basically. So the airfield thing is obvious. You don't want to fly them anywhere near airplanes that are taking off or landing. You don't want to fly them near big buildings. You don't want to panic children. You don't want to panic animals, drive them on the roads and all that kind of stuff. They're quite noisy. If you look at any sort of things that have happened in the past with drones, I think it was Enrique Iglesias grabbed the drone on the stage and cut his hands really quite badly when it was filming one of his concerts. So there's things like that you need to be aware of. And what you may not know, should you want to get into looking at drones a little bit, is here in the UK, the rules start at 249 grams. 249 grams is the magic number. Drones over 249 grams need to be licensed, and you need to sit what the equivalent of a pilot's license is for the drone. So you need to sit a test. In the first instance, it's not that difficult. It's just understanding the law of how close you can fly to things and all the rest of it as a drone pilot, but somebody needs to be the operator as well. So 249 grams, you certainly need to have a pilot's license, to have an operator's license to be part of it. But children under the age of 18 and all the rest of it, as soon as you get over that 249 grams thing, then you actually need to set the pilot's test as well. So it's just to have that sort of background of, you can't just buy one off a shelf and go and fly it. There are actually rules involved with it as well. And as you go up through the sort of weight classes, so if you're filming for the BBC, for example, you have to sit a more formal test. You still need the same operator license identifier for that as well. And the point of the operator ID is you put a license number on them, so if it's found, they can trace it back to who owns the drone. That's kind of the point of it. But you need to register all this with the Civil Aviation Authority here in the UK. I have a pilot's license for a drone now in the UK. I sat and did the test on Christmas Day, I think it was. It cost me £15 to set my license. It's valid for a year, and you kind of go from there. So it was just that sort of background, because I don't know if everybody sort of appreciates there is a bit of legalese to getting one of these things.
So how much does your drone weigh?
My drone weighs 249 grams.
So you're just under.
Exactly.
Right,
and that's deliberate on the part of the manufacturers, because obviously more mass, more damage, more range, all the things that come with having more and more on a drone. And obviously the companies, in this case it's DJI is my drone, are very aware of what the law is, and it's very similar in Europe, and I think it's quite similar in America. So this is sort of the accepted standards for these things, so the companies have tried to hit these.
Yeah, I wonder if that weight will come down over time as things get lighter and easier. I must confess, I am drone curious. I do live near a big airfield, so I'll wonder what the perimeter is around that I can and can't fly, but I'd love to have a go on one.
Yeah, you would probably be struggling at the end of an airfield. And we talked about this last week. DJI just changed the rules where once upon a time the GPS and the drone wouldn't let you fly anywhere near an airfield anyway. I don't know what's happened in the UK, but certainly in America they've removed that restriction for whatever reason.
Why would you do that?
I don't know.
True, that restriction makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it did. And just to finish my thought on the licensing, the categories in the UK are the open category for low-risk flying drones, such as the one that I have, specific for heavier drones in urban areas. Eventually, this was what Amazon delivery drones and all the rest of it will be part of. And then certified, and that is for your camera operators who might be working very closely with human beings or buildings or all the rest of it. Other rules apply around the world. And the point is, you don't just take a drone, hit a ski slope, and then cause an avalanche. It's those kinds of things you want to think about as you're doing it.
So you've got a drone. How do you use it? What do you do with it?
So far, not a lot. I am thinking I might, on my epic car trip tomorrow, I might take it with me and just try and get some cinematic shots of me with the car parked at the beach or something like that.
I thought you meant while you were driving along. Could you have a passenger fly the drone?
So for our YouTubers, this is my drone. It's not a very big thing at all. It actually fits in the pocket of my jacket.
Okay.
It has a 4K camera built into the front here. You can just see it pointing, which is on a gimbal. The drone's not activated at the moment, but it will actually track you up and down. More sophisticated drones, it will track you, left and right as well. There are a bunch of modes built into it, and I don't think you'll be able to see this very well on the camera, but there's a button with some sort of icons there, which correspond to lights. And the joy of this drone is that it's quite nice. It's got propeller guards built into it, so it doesn't have any of the sort of sophisticated collision avoidance or anything that more expensive drones have. But it's quite a robust thing. The propellers are the most delicate part of it. The 6 modes built into this, and I won't remember what exactly all of them are, but without even connecting it to the app, and there's an app that you can fly it manually with on your phone, you can get it to do some things. So it has facial recognition, so it will do they call it a droney instead of a selfie, whereas you can launch it. It will launch off the palm of your hand. I need to try and stay close to the microphone while I'm describing this. It will launch off the palm of your hand and recognize the palm of your hand. There's camera underneath as well. So you will launch it off your hand. It will back off 4 meters. It will stand there and you can present to camera. There's a very sophisticated thing in the app where if you use your phone as a microphone, it knows to remove the propeller whine from it. So you could actually do a presentation as if it was a cameraman looking at you, which is really quite cool.
That's quite cool.
Yeah. The second mode is like a rotating thing where it will fly around you in a circle and then come back to where it started, and you hold your hand out again and it will land. There's a mode called rocket, which will take off, and all of these are default to 4 meters, but it will go to 25, I think. 25 meters above you is quite high. It will take off and it will give you a very cinematic shot of it going, 25 meters into the sky and then slowly back down to you, and then again is designed to land on your hand. And my experience, 9 out of 10 times it will find your hand and land on it again. 1 out of 10 times it won't, and you're sort of chasing it up the beach, hoping it'll land on your hand. And then there's like a helix mode where it will do like a figure of 8 around you. So there's a bunch of modes built into the camera, into the drone, that will let you do lots of things with it. And then if you go into the app, there's additional things. So you can, example, paint an object with your finger, draw a square around something, and then the drone will go and circle that without you still having to fly it. So you identify a car or a building or your dog or something, and it will actually treat that in the same way as your facial recognition. So that's sort of mapped into the drone's memory. And that's it, really. You can, like I say, fly it manually. There's a bigger ecosystem DJI will sell you into, which involves AR helmet, which is about 300 quid, that you can put on so you get a first person's perspective of the drone's camera. So you can actually fly it using that, which is quite cool as well. You can get a more serious controller, which will go, this is the range of Wi-Fi. So like I say, about 25 meters in an open environment. If you have their dedicated controller, I think it's a lot further. It's 500 or 600 or 700 meters or something like that. It's an awful lot further than what you get for using their controllers. And that works with a helmet, and they've got an ecosystem that will come together. But this is a £140 device. It's got 17 minutes of flight time. It has 512 gigs of onboard storage, so enough to store enough memory storage for you. It works off USB-C. It will connect even if there's no power in the battery as an external camera device, so you can get your video files off it. It's quite a fun little toy, I got to say. I got to find a few more things for it. It has a replaceable battery pack as well, so you can just snap these in and out if you do want to take it, if you've got more than one thing you want to film on. And I'm quite impressed with it, I've got to say. It's quite an impressive thing.
So I was just thinking about it, and I've just had a look where you've been talking, and drones are a lot cheaper than I probably had appreciated. Like just buying the base drone, or if you get one of the combo packs, and the smarts, the tech that you get with it, it's pretty cool, isn't it? Like, they've made it very accessible. And the fact you were talking just now about you don't even need to use the app and it can do stuff, that's clever. I'm quite impressed with that. Forgive me if I missed it, but did you mention how you get the videos off? Does it take stills? Is it videos? Is it an SD card, or is it just transferred on the app, or how does that work?
A bit of all of these things. It's not an SD card. It's got a certain amount of built-in memory. You need to go with the other drones if you want micro SD. But there's 512 gigs on it, I think. So this is sufficient for the 4K camera to take, as long as the flight time is, you're going to store 15, 17 minutes of video for the flight time. Yes, it will take stills. They're not the greatest stills in the world. They're okay. I've shared some of the drone videos with you. They look really nice.
It looked cool. I was quite impressed with it. And it was you walking along a beach with a drone following you. It's slightly above you kind of thing. So it was quite a cool shot. And obviously you're on a beautiful beach in Wales, I'm guessing.
Yeah, just walking along the beach along the front here. That works really well. To transfer the files, you can use the app. You can see them all within there. You can transfer them off the drone using the app and the stills as well. Or you can plug in a USB cable straight to your Mac. It appears just as a device, and you can drag them off there, and it transfers really quickly. I
guess it's the joy of USB-C on your phone as well. You can just go boom and you're done.
Yep, but it will communicate wirelessly with the drone too, so you don't even need to plug in a cable. You can just drag it straight out of the app too. So it's quite a robust experience.
Like I say, I'm amazed at the amount of tech they're getting in a device that if you just buy on its own, circa 150 quid. And then if you want the dedicated controller to go with it, it's 280 quid. That seems a pretty good price.
Yeah, I like I say, I'm quite impressed with it, and the robustness of it is a thing as well. Now, drones are historically, I've been hinting at this, quite fragile,
Yes.
because the propellers are exposed. If we look at something like this, which is their air, you can see the propellers are completely exposed on the thing. Whereas you can see them moving towards more robust device. This is a professional thing that, I don't know, Top Gear or someone like that would use. But this new device of theirs, the DJI Flip, which I think is about £300, if we can buy now. £369, is a fascinating little thing because it's like the Neo, which is the one I've got, taken to the next level. Where
Yes, it's like the interim, but not the professional, but in the middle product.
Yeah, but the thing is, it folds up like a bicycle.
That's clever.
And you can see how small it actually becomes when you do that. It's a more robust drone than this. It can go further. It's got bigger propellers and all the rest of it. But look how neat that folds away. I think it's really clever design.
That is cool. I like that.
Yeah, and also, crucially, under 249 grams.
They are really going for that weight, aren't they? Fair play.
They've got to, but that gives you 31 minutes flight. I think this one is a micro SD card. The camera is a 3 gimbal camera. It's not just an up and down camera. And the smarts in these things are really clever anyway. They can't cope with a lot of wind. I think it's 8 meters per second or something like that. But up to 8 meters per second, you get an absolutely level flight. It's really quite an impressive thing, even on the one I've got.
I think it looks awesome. I'm there. You've made me drone curious, which isn't good right now as we are the weekend before payday. So never a good time to be wanting to spend some money.
Well, I'm glad to make you drone curious. Should we do App of the Week?
Yeah, let's do it. What have you got?
So it's not that controversial this week. Apple Notes. I haven't used it an awful lot, but it's one of those things that lives there on your phone. You use it all the time without thinking about it. It syncs perfectly in the background, 99.9% of the time. And one thing I hadn't used, but I've started using a bit more of, are the collaborative features. So if you're sharing a shopping list, or you're sharing your Chinese order or your takeaway order with someone, then it's just there. You can all jump into it. You can put the things you want to do, and it just works. I'm really quite impressed with Apple Notes. Not a lot to be said about it. It's there on your phone. Use it.
It's a great app, and to be fair to Apple, when they reinvested in it years ago, when we got rid of the felt marker look, and they really re-engineered it, the sync's been amazing, and it's always been the proving ground for Apple Pencil support and the toolbox that they provide there. I think it's really good. I don't use it enough. I'm a bit rubbish with notes because I have moments in different apps, which isn't good because I like to try different things, but it is a great app. You're 100% right, and it just syncs. It's very clever.
Yep. And they've added to it over the years. You've got math in there now. If you've got an Apple Pencil, you can draw with it. You can do all sorts of things. So it's one of those quiet background apps that actually just works really well and has done for about the last 5 years now.
It's Apple syncing at its best, to be fair to them. I think it's a great app.
That's not something we say a lot, is it?
Not a lot. But the guys and girls that have engineered it, they've done a fantastic job.
Thing of the week?
So thing of the week, this week I've gone for a bit of media. I've watched a film, A Man Called Otto. I'd never seen it before, but a few people in my office were talking about it, and I thought, I should check that out. I like a bit of Tom Hanks. Don't know why I haven't watched it. It's got a pretty good rating on here, 70% by the professionals and 97% by the general public. Do you know what? Really good film. Actually really enjoyed it. Quite a bit of meaning in the film. It's clever how the story unwinds because there's lots of clips going back in time showing Tom Hanks's character as a much younger person, how he met his partner and some of the things in life they went through, and why he ends up so cranky and grumpy as he is in older life. But no, enjoyable film. And actually Tom Hanks's son is in it, playing the younger version of Tom Hanks. So that was kind of cool. It was just a good film, and it hit me at the right moment, and I enjoyed the recommendation from my colleagues in the office.
Very good, and I'm glad they didn't de-age him. They actually got an actor in to play him, so fair play.
Well, it's quite cool he got to work with his son, I guess. Not that they were ever on screen at the same time, because obviously he was playing a younger version of him, but I thought it was quite cool.
Bit nepotistic. I think we can call that a show, Chris.
I think so. So if anyone wants to get in contact with us, Rod is at g5maniac@mastodon.scot. He's also on Blue Sky, and he's at g5maniac@bsky.social. I'm on Mastodon as well. I am at _CJP@mastodon.social. You can watch us on YouTube by going to our website and clicking on the link, or you can drop us an email at wakefromsleep@protonmail.com.
Talk to you next week, Chris.
Cheers, Rod.